computer to make sure.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, it says we're live.
Board of Education meetings, watch meetings live, or view archived meetings. And then and it brings up bulk trash disposal.
I wonder what changed. Cause we had our student services meeting on
Maybe a
Monday.
connection or
I wonder
something?
if that was
Well,
required.
The last one didn't either, so I don't know.
So it's not,
It's
it's
I'm
not,
gonna make a note to
I saw
check
it.
that one too.
No, I
Yeah,
saw
that's
your
not the
meeting.
Oh, you did, oh, you did,
Because I
okay.
couldn't make it, so I watched.
That's not
Okay.
the most recent meeting.
Oh, here we are.
we can hear it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I went to the district
I want to
YouTube.
watch myself.
Okay, so
Yeah, and
I went to here.
yeah, I don't know that that piece of
Okay.
always works live. I was told to go to YouTube, so that
Got
might be something to fix, but.
Okay.
Okay, so we're ready? All right, today is Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, and we're at a Curriculum and Learning Committee meeting at the School District of Menominee Falls. There's a possibility that a quorum of the full membership of the Board of Education may be in attendance at board committee meetings including virtual meetings. There will be no full board action taken at any board committee meeting. Only members of the committee may vote on any item on the agenda. A live broadcast will be streamed on the school district YouTube page. To watch the recorded meeting, please visit the School District of Menominee Falls YouTube site. And we're at the district office in conference room 3344, 3345 on Pilgrim Road. This meeting is called to order at 6:01, and was it properly posted?
Yes.
Okay, and everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes?
I did, yes.
All right, good. Any questions or concerns? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good. Okay, now we'll talk.
Yes, we have 3 discussion items tonight. So the first one is the Act 20 early remediation plan. So
Okay.
I think last month when we did an update on Act 20, we talked about one of the pieces that we're required to have and post on our website is an early literacy remediation plan. And so DPI has provided a template for that, and so we have worked on putting together our first draft of that. I think over time it will continue to evolve as we get more information about new pieces and things with the law, and our implementation of the law might change slightly, but this is our first good work around just gathering all the information and putting it in one spot. So Meg Formolo and Michelle Strepp are here again tonight because they have done a lot of the legwork around this to make this happen, and I wanted them to be a part of sharing it with you. So I know it was a lot. I hope you had a chance to look through some of it. And again, we won't go through step by step, but we'll go through each section and kind of talk about highlights. So you wanna get started, and then I'll, I'm sure, jump in along the way.
Yes.
Welcome, like a permanent fixture here.
Exactly, a lot going on in literacy.
Yeah.
Here it is. Keeps us busy.
Yeah.
That's right, no boredom over here.
Yeah, so I think the plan in general, it's a guiding document to our district's literacy instruction, our assessment, and then how we support students for all stakeholders that are part of our district and in our teaching and our learning and our parents and our caregivers. So, I mean, that's the first section is just kind of an introduction to that, right? Like what its purpose is. And so how Meg and I just plan on approaching this is just going through like the sections and just generally speaking to it, not getting into details about it unless there's like follow-up questions to try and, explain some clarification items.
Sounds good.
So the first section is basically explaining, it addresses our district's approach to high quality instruction by providing information pertaining to the standards for 4K. So that's the Wisconsin Model Early Learning Standards, those are the 4K standards. And then the Wisconsin ELA standards, and then providing an overview of our curricular resource. So that's what's captured on that page. Then if you go to section 2, that is addressing the early literacy assessment system, which is telling more about the universal screening that's coming into place for our K-3, 4K through 3rd grade students by the state. We did speak to this in a little bit last time when we were here in October of that, so that's just giving the more details about that. What is it, what does it assess? So if you flip, that's kind of that first page, and then if you flip to the second page, page 4 I'm on, this should look somewhat familiar to you. I think we had that kind of posted, like what are the skills and when do the assessments happen? We included 4K in there so you can see the measures for 4K, you can see the measures for 5K through 3rd grade, and then we did include on this document grades 4 and 5, just so that it would be transparent of how we're measuring progress with our students in 4th and 5th grade also. Then if you turn to page 5, it's addressing how we would communicate that information to our families. And then what would be the diagnostic assessments that we would complete and in those areas. So if you recall, if students in 4K through 3rd grade, if they score in the 25th percentile or lower on that universal screener, then they get flagged, and then we have to do a deeper dive in those areas and have diagnostic assessments in those. And then on the back of page 6, it continues how we would monitor, what tools we would use in regards to those diagnostic assessments. And then what would be maybe other assessments we would use beyond the areas that were listed on page 5 and the tools that are listed like Ames Web and FastBridge. So it identifies some other options for us.
The law specifies the screener that we have to use, and then we have suggestions around the diagnostics, so we have more opportunity to be flexible with what we use.
So then, how long have we been using Ames Web and FastBridge?
So Ames Web we have not been using, so that will be new with the screeners. So we've been training staff in how to administer that to students. FastBridge we have been using for progress monitoring since I've been here and longer. I don't know.
Yes.
Ballpark.
Probably, I would say, really consistently beginning last year for our children in Tier 3 and any students with IEPs for different needs. We've been using it, but it's gotten a lot more targeted to those specific groups in the last 3 years.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I read somewhere, and I can't seem to find it in front of me right now, but that's like the national norm
Yes.
as far as like the statistics they're looking at. Have there been changes to any of the national scorecards, standards?
I would have to look back at how FastBridge does that. Ames Web, of course, is new to us.
Sure.
But I can speak to like with our MAP assessment, they go through and renorm every about 5 years.
Okay.
So I would guess without having it in front of me, I would guess FastBridge and Ames Web do similar things from time to time.
So when they renorm, I mean, can you kind of describe that to me a little bit? Are we looking at like a higher standard, a lower standard, or different
It
standards?
kind of depends because it's based on how students in the norm group perform. So it can go up, can go down, it depends. In MAP, when we looked at the norms, it varied by grade level.
Okay.
Whether the standard in the new norms was
Interesting.
higher or lower. And it's based on based specifically on the population of children who take the test.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know if you have anything.
I was just thinking for the norms kind of are there's a very mathematical formula for that. And then our diagnostics have to meet those specificity and sensitivity. That's within Act 20. So if kids score at that below 25th percentile, those are really well-researched and normed across the population as well.
Sure.
Any assessment like that has a whole team of statisticians who do that work.
Sure. Okay. That makes
Usually
sense.
Good question.
give a very technical report on what all the pieces are.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, it makes sense. It just, wondering, are we comparing apples to apples as far as that
Sure.
scoring goes and
Between the two Ames Web and
no,
Uxbridge,
I
or
mean,
just?
even just between Ames Web and Ames Web from one year to the other, so that we can say, okay, we're on this path and then we're on the same trajectory, if that makes sense.
Typically the norms they don't change every year. So yes, over a series of years, you'd be able to compare apples to apples.
Okay, thank you. Sorry,
Good
Dave.
deal. No.
I interrupted there.
Good deal, no,
Moving into
Not yet.
section 3 of the early remediation plan for literacy, there are student supports, and we've talked a bit about in the past about those students who are needing, we use that kind of triage analogy, kids who need supports either from explicit instruction or reteaching in the classroom, or if they need something more intensive. So we have our Tier 2 selected intervention, which are classroom-based, and then our intensive intervention for students who are in need of that extra support. And those are determined by those diagnostic assessments. And to your point, we actually do look at trends, so we're kind of keeping an eye on that data and making sure that students are responding. And we have both interventions and intervention strategies depending on where the students fall within that below 25th percentile. Part of this also, which we spoke to last month, is the personal reading plan. So that's the means that we use to monitor those students and how they're responding. Parents are updated every 10 weeks for progress.
Sure, okay.
And then part of the plan, which was actually on our website, was the guidebook on dyslexia. So we're wanting to identify any children who are showing characteristics of dyslexia, and that's what those diagnostics help us understand.
So, and then we talked a little bit, I think the last couple months, about the promotion policy that we'll need, that we're required to have by July 1st of 2025. And so I know DPI is required to release a model policy by January 1st. So once we have that, then we'll take a look at it and probably bring that forward for the policy committee to consider for potential board action. The other component that is just, we're just starting to learn more about is the required summer reading support. And I was telling Meg and Michelle before the meeting, I had an opportunity today to hear from Bart Novak, who is the director of the Office of Early Literacy at DPI. And she was telling us a little bit more about that summer reading support. So that will be something that if our promotion policy starts after July 1st of 2025, then, we'll put it into policy first and then set it to implement next school year. Then the summer reading support, that intensive summer reading support, would be a part of summer 2026 that we would implement for that summer. But we already have additional reading instruction and practice in our summer school, and so we already have a practice of recommending students who are in need of more support for summer school opportunities. So we have that is in the plan as a current piece, but there will be more structure around that with more intensive support coming.
and if they're referred for that, or recommended to have that, do you foresee possibly the numbers going up?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because of the sensitivity of the.
Yes. It will still be
Cutoff.
something that we recommend,
Yeah.
obviously we're not gonna require summer school for students, it's
Right.
still family choice. But I do anticipate that we would have more students that we would be recommending for summer school.
The exit criteria refers back to that personal reading plan, and that's just our way of setting individual goals. We do inform families so that they can also support those goals. We'll continue ongoing data collection and document through those progress reports the student's response, and then respond to continuing the intervention, changing, or determining if the student meets exit criteria.
And that's every 10 weeks. Okay, very good.
Yes. And then under family notification, I just added the templates that we will use to structure our letter both prior to testing and then after testing and get results, so. And those, but yeah, they're just there for you to see there. And then family and community engagement surveys. Let's see, I don't know if either one of you wanna speak to that, but we wanna make sure that, and we do this already with different assessments, making sure that families can get things in their preferred language. And we have a family history survey here that will be an electronic Google survey that will be linked in both of those letters so that all families can respond to the survey. We can use that information to help guide decision making. So those links will be added live once this is ready to go on the website. And then finally, around our strategic use of data, I just, and I probably could have gone on a lot longer here, but around just how we review and evaluate instruction. We have a schedule of assessments that we do every year, and of course, Ames Web being now an added piece to that. We collect lots of data. We involve stakeholders in our data analysis. We have just done a literacy curriculum review, and we'll continue to review how that's going throughout that cycle. And then based on all of the information that we collect, we design our professional learning. So nothing new there, just an opportunity to kind of reiterate what that looks like and who's involved in that process. There are a lot of people involved in that work.
And that's it.
And that is the plan.
All right,
Very nice.
thank you.
Any questions? Nope, looks
Not,
pretty good.
yeah, it does look pretty good.
A
lot of details.
A lot of
It's
work.
a lot of details. These ladies have done a lot of work and under changing conditions, things that every day we feel like we learn more and new and different, and occasionally it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we want to keep more steps forward, and I think we definitely are. So, but it has certainly been a process, and this is something new, so there's no blueprint for any of this. So
Right.
we will start screening our 3rd graders before winter break, so that will start December 3rd. They'll be our first group to go through that process, and we will complete the screener, any diagnostics, writing the personal reading plan, and communicating to families, all within that from December 3rd through winter break.
How many days do you think that takes when you do screening?
These ladies have done a lot of math around the.
Really? Not one day. Yeah.
Varies a little bit by grade level,
True.
because different levels have different numbers of assessments, but it looks like we think we can get 3rd grade, the initial screening done in a couple of days. We'll always have makeups, show the absences. But that the screener will take a couple of days. The diagnostic is really going to depend on how many students we need to assess. And that could vary widely based on results, so.
Yeah, and I think, yes, and then there are, that was some new learning that came just our way a couple weeks ago in regards to the number of diagnostics per grade level. So with our 3rd graders, because we don't have historical data on every one of those, we have about 7 diagnostic assessments we have to do on the 3rd grade students who get flagged. So that approximately is going to take maybe like 45 minutes.
Per student.
Well, some of them can be whole group, so that we
okay.
can bring whole group, and then
Like if
some of
they're
them have to be one-on-one.
Gotcha.
But so like you could look like overall it'd be 45 minutes per student,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't have to be all of them one-on-one 45,
Right,
just to
okay.
clarify that, so, but
Wow.
yeah.
That's a lot.
Mhm.
So it's a draft because, you know, it's a work in progress.
I think it's a
and
work in
room for-
progress. I think if you're okay, and I
adjustment.
wanted to bring it to you first to see if there
Yeah.
was anything that you had wanted clarification on. It
Mhm.
doesn't, from what I can see, require formal,
No.
action like some of our other plans do.
Mhm.
And I would like to get it posted for when, we start assessing. I want it to be a resource that parents have readily accessible on the website. So if you're comfortable, I would like to take draft off, knowing that we will continue to amend and we'll update the date as we make changes, because we anticipate as we learn more and as things change, we will have to continue to make changes. But any substantial changes
Mhm.
to programming or things like that, we would definitely bring back here. I anticipate changes just being little procedural things that we learn. And I wanna be able to keep that up to date so that we're being transparent with families in the community. So unless there's an objection, that's what I'm hoping to move forward with.
I think it
sounds
sounds
great.
good.
Okay,
Thank you so much for all your hard work in doing this, because I'm actually very excited to have at least a formal guiding document for our district. And then being able to target the students sooner, I think that just benefits them because it's all about the kids, right? So, thank you so much for all that work.
You're welcome.
And this is something
Keep
you
us
can,
posted.
you know,
Yes.
hand over and everyone can rely on it, and so.
100%, it's great to, as
Good
we're getting those things done, it's nice to have those,
And
I guess,
like how
products
it's
for
broken
kids.
down
consistency.
too, it's very easy to digest, also for families to see, broken down in regards to the grades and also the components. And I think that's gonna be really helpful, so
Yeah, because that's important. I mean,
very important.
it's a new thing.
It's harrowing, right?
Yeah,
Try to
and-
explain this.
Yeah.
To parents, and so, yeah, thank you so much, good work.
The exciting part, I think we keep talking about, as we talk about all these logistics and things that are new, I mean, the goal of all of this is to make sure we're identifying our students as soon as possible and working as hard as we can to have every student be a reader when they leave
Right.
third grade. That's what we all want, and we all can get behind that, so
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes,
Drive
thank
safely.
you.
It's snowing. I think it's still dry out there.
Thank you very much, Julie. Have a good night. and
It
we'll
seems drier up here.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Coming south.
Okay, moving along.
Yes, so we have the summary of our title programs for last school year.
Mhm.
Laura AG does a fantastic job keeping track of all of the logistical pieces around title, making sure that we are meeting all of the requirements, that we're using our funds wisely. And she does a lot of meetings with a lot of different people to make this happen, so, and is a great connection with DPI. So this is really hers to share, so I'm gonna let her do that, and I probably will jump in a little bit, but I'll turn it over to Laura.
Alright, so just a quick summary of the things we'll talk through. It's just going through our grant program that we participate in. Title falls under the ESEA grant, Every Student Succeeds. ESSA, ESEA, it's kind of all interchangeable. I'll touch base on our private schools quick and then go through the 4 titles that we receive funds in. So the title grant program is under that Every Student Succeeds Act. I got ahead of myself. We have the allocated grant funding. The grant funding comes through Wisconsin DPI and comes to us to be allocated, and we use DPI's online system to figure out what the allocations are. And then we follow their rules and guidelines. So for Title I, there's 4 titles. For Title I, that's dependent on the school's economically disadvantaged students. That gives us, through DPI's calculation, the allocation that a school is eligible for, and then that allocation can be used to help any students that are academically struggling. So we always try to make the description that the students being helped with title funds are not economically disadvantaged, that's not a qualifier for it. It can be used for any of our students in that building that have academic need. Title II funds are based off of our student enrollment count, and then those are typically used for professional development, and that typically needs to revolve around something that the district is working towards. So we often use it for literacy, for math, and sometimes for technology, since that's an ever-changing piece and our district wants to stay up to date on those pieces, especially with cybersecurity stuff. Title III funds are our English learner students. So those are specific to being able to support that program above and beyond like a regular classroom. And those funds initially sat under pupil services and then have shifted over to be under curriculum learning and analytics. So in the 23-24 school year is when kind of the funds shifted over for us to manage. And
Did
then,
a lot of learning around that.
yes, yes, that was new, that was completely new for us. And then Title IV is, follows the Title I funding formula information with student enrollment stuff, and that's the most flexible of the funding that we have. We kind of use the terms like everything in the kitchen sink as long as it supports student learning in some manner, form, or way. So with these funds, private schools can be eligible to use these funds, and our private schools within our district get to choose whether they want to use them or not. And if they choose they want to use them, then I work with the private school on information that I have to get from them around enrollment to be able to put it into our application, and then DPI kind of splits the allocations into here's your public school pot, and then here's your private school pot, and then here's what each private school gets. So I meet with our private schools multiple times a year to make sure that they know what their allocations are, what they can spend the funds on. We have processes about how they need to budget the funds so that I can get information into DPI for approval. We have processes for purchasing the funds because there's a lot of rules around who can do the purchasing, when it can be purchased. So it's a year-long, all year long process that we work through with them. We do have multiple private schools that participate that are within our district. So Grace St. Mary, Bethlehem, and Chesterton. And then for the 24-25 year, which I don't put on here, but I generally talk about, we had a new school participate in Title, so Aquinas is participating this year. All right. Any questions about the private schools? Because that's kind of my summary of them. All right.
No, that's understandable, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Good description.
So for Title I, we're considered a targeted Title I district, which means when we do the application, DPI determines which of our specific schools are eligible to use the Title I funds, and then how much we have to use at that school. So for the 23-24 school year, after doing DPI's applications process, it came out to Valley View being a Title I school and North Middle School. North is pretty common for us. I think they've been consistently one of our title schools for many years in a row now. Valley View is new, so that was a shift. Every couple of years, depending on our population, it seems to shift across across our elementary schools. So Shady Lane was our targeted school for a couple of years, and now it's shifted up to Valley View. So, you know, you can kind of follow the trends there. So with those funds, and you can see what the allocation is in the slide, the 47,000 and the 76,000. We use those to fund a reading intervention teacher, as much of a reading intervention teacher as we can, based on whatever the allocation is. So that's always, we always try to do that with our title funds because it is an easy way for us to show that we are impacting student growth as much as possible with immediate services to them. So the Title II funds are the professional development funds, and we use those, like I said, typically math reading, technology. Title II has a lot of rules around supplementing versus supplanting, so if it's something the district has paid for in the past, we have to be really careful about shifting it to grant funds. If it's stuff we've paid for in the past with grant funds, we do our best to keep it there to avoid that supplemental versus supplant shift and concern. So each year you can kind of follow it across what our allocation was. Our carryover is unspent funds from the year before that we are able to carry over for 1 year and spend, and then the total available. We do our best to be able to budget to the grants first if possible, because that gives us a little more flexibility within our district budgeting for projects and needs that would never be able to be funded via grants.
But one of the things, and correct me if I'm misspeaking, but with Act 20, there are certain things that we can't use title funding for.
that's why
So some of the training and some of the things that maybe we would have in a
Yeah.
normal year, yes, we have to think a little bit differently about that.
Cause you try to use it as much as you can.
Right,
and
right, and then
it
sometimes
just
it
doesn't work.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so we've gotta think a little bit differently about
Yeah.
that, but.
Yes.
Because that would be staff development, so I mean, I think that's very unfortunate that they have
Yeah,
a limitation there.
yeah, it has to do with the state
State rules.
Yeah.
Mhm. So there were some things that we paid for out of our budget that I think I normally,
Yeah,
I
that
mean-
we would typically literacy guided have put into the grant funds. And we have a higher carryover because last year with the curriculum reviews and things that we were doing, we weren't sending people out of district as much to do professional development trainings because
Sure.
we needed them here,
Sure.
so.
And then is it just the carryover for 1 year or
Mhm.
does it-
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll touch base on that in another
Oh,
slide.
sure, okay.
I
But
probably
we
got
always
that
want to
as a-
spend it within 1 year.
Yes.
Did anyone have questions about Title II? Okay. Alright, so Title III, that's the grant that's English learner specific that came over to CLA last August-ish for the 23-24 year. Those funds are specific to the EL students, so materials for the EL students, materials for the EL teachers, some of the professional development for our EL teachers, and sometimes some of the additional work they might do with curriculum if they're doing something specific, especially training around that, that's specific to EL. Where you were talking about the carryover piece and how many years you can carry it over, we're allowed to carry it over for 1 year, and then there's like a 3-month grace period, and they call that tidings. So in the 23-24 year, when it came over to CLA, we made the realization that the expenditures from the previous year did not expend the carryover amount. So we did some fast budgeting and purchasing to make sure that we didn't lose the vast majority of the funds. And that allowed us to use that $9,662 that's noted there.
Okay.
If we hadn't used it, we would have lost it. So that's that tidings piece with the little stars next to it. And then from the 23-24 year, we expended that tidings piece, and then we expended all of our above and beyond our carryover, so we're back into like our regular, how we would typically budget for the 24-25 year. Any other questions around Title III? Okay. Alright, and then Title IV is our last title. These are grant funds allocated to the district, they're not school specifics. For 23-24, we funded the modified hotspots. Those are the hotspots that can be checked out to families, any students able to talk to the principal or families able to talk to the principal so that they can have the internet access. They get it checked out for the year or until the family says they no longer need it. And it's free for our students. So it makes sure that all of our students have equal access to the internet. They can access Schoology, especially at the high school level or middle school for their courses, any online coursework that they need to do, just that equity piece for them. That's something that we've funded consistently out of Title IV. Title IV has that same supplement versus supplant rule. So that's one of the things that we always consistently keep in that grant. Last year, we also did the literacy professional development and some reading intervention materials at the middle school. Again, because we were working so much on literacy last year, so we used those grant funds to support the work we were doing. Our typical process for that is The same for all of our grants, we have to expend items by budgeting to DPI, getting their approval, and then purchasing. And then you can kind of see, what our allocation is, it's pretty consistent. And then our carryover varies depending on what we're doing. The intervention materials at the high school, at North, were a more expensive item, so you can see how our carryover decreased then. And that's everything for title.
Any questions? I think it's pretty, very, very clear.
Awesome.
Which is great, and it's a credit to Laura, because there are a lot of details and rules around this, so.
Yeah, I mean, how do you keep track of those due dates? Do you have like a reminder go off on your laptop
I
when
have-
something's due?
I have annual notices on my calendar for
Yeah,
when things
you
are
have
due.
to, right?
And we do have different reports that we submit, the end of year title report, our budgets are due at certain times, things like that. So we do work really hard, not just me, I mean, our grant staff includes, like special ed has their own grant stuff that they take care of. So there are a lot of us that are keeping track of different pieces.
You have regular connection with DPI and the folks who administer these different programs, so she does a good job of making sure that everything
Taking
is
advantage of every opportunity for the students.
exactly for continued learning. And Laura digs in, I would say, especially with the Title III, that was a lot of learning, and it sounded like some of the processes and expectations had changed just from the DPI level too, so she was able to adapt to all of that pretty quickly and get that moving when we needed to, so that was good.
All right, thank you.
Very good. All right, moving right along.
Thank you, yes.
You have this one too, Laura?
Don't want her to be bored. Laura is our coordinator of Fall Summer Academy, and last month she presented kind of the report for last year, and then we started talking about this upcoming summer. I feel like, because I was this summer school director for a number of years, and I felt like when the first snowfall came, that's when I really had to start focusing on summer school, and I feel like that's appropriate. Here we are, we're in that place today.
Yeah, like Mr. Munoz says, well, we are pretty far into the school year.
That was a pretty good impression, yes. So summer school really is a year-round event. There's always
Planning.
something going on, either reflecting or on what went well and how we can improve, as well as preparing for the new year. So I'll let Laura talk about our dates and locations.
Yep, so for summer 2025, our dates look slightly different than our typical date grouping that we would use. Our school year calendar for 24-25 ends later than we had seen in the past, so we're around that June 10th, 11th date. Where typically in the past we got out somewhere around the 7th, 8th, or 6th. And when we plan for summer school, our regular school year ends, and then we typically have a week so that we can turn everything over for summer school, and then summer school starts. And then we try to have a week off during the July 4th week, so that there's a week between session 1 and session 2. In looking at the calendar, we didn't have a week. There's not 2 weeks to grab there.
Before you get too far into the summer for both teachers and families. As it goes later in July, we start losing people just because of other obligations. So
And running into when high school sports starts, because they have those early starts for practices and different things like that. So we worked with multiple departments across the district to see where our highest need was to be able to give us an idea for dates. And June 23rd to July 3rd is what the committee recommended because our tech team had immense concerns about being able to turn around the technology in the classrooms and for the students with one day. It just wasn't something that they thought would be at all feasible. So that put our start date around June 23rd. There was concern about going past July 18th because then we run into the start of school year for the next year. So session 1 is planned as a 9-day session. That's 1 day less than normal. We normally run a 10-day session, but because of where July 4th falls, we'll be 9 days for that session. And then we'll have the 3-day weekend, and then we'll immediately start session 2.
Okay.
So,
no week off, which is not ideal, but I think going too late in the summer just has staffing implications and participation implications that are just
You
even
wanna
worse.
avoid that.
So we wanna avoid that, so I think it will be a quick turnaround, we do have the 3-day weekend in there, and so we'll give it a try this year. We will have a similar situation with the 25-26 calendar, so if we need to adjust and we can prep people for doing something different, then perhaps we would, but we'll give this a try. In my years of summer school directing as well as Laura's, this seems to be the best.
The best option.
The best option we can come up with,
Yeah.
so.
So we will, once it comes out of this committee, and if you have no concerns about it, then we'll kind of start our communication blitz with families so that they can get those dates on their calendars, hold them if they want to, schedule vacations around it, so that our community is aware of it.
Locations.
Yes, yeah.
So it's at those 4 buildings, right?
that is the plan.
Which is different than years past
Yes.
because of roofing and construction.
So
That's great.
typically, historically, we've always tried to have it at the 4 buildings.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, North has been under construction, so our facilities department had said it's not safe for us to have kids there while the construction's going on, so we shifted to the high school. We connected with facilities again this year, and due to the construction at Riverside, they've decided, facilities has said they need it to be at Shady Lane and Valley View again. So that keeps kind of what our parents are familiar with the partner schools, we'll be able to do the same structure we did last summer for this summer at those 2 schools. When we talked to them about the high school, facilities had said we really need North to go back to North so that we can get to some of the deep cleaning that we've delayed with having North at the high school.
Okay.
So it'll be the 4 locations this year. Any questions? Alright.
Looks like an innocent piece of paper, but there's a lot
There's a lot of,
there.
there's a lot of consideration about what would be best there, and so yeah, I think.
So then you're on to what's next for planning?
So we started talking about courses, and we typically start reaching out to staff members about returning to teach in December. Like we have to get past Thanksgiving or people are like, I can't deal with this yet, right? So,
Do it in sections.
Yep. And then all of the summer school administrators, which are our APs, have been looking at just the organizational stuff of things and then working together on the different processes, because we have a lot of new faces this year.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to move on? So we're talking about committee agenda items.
Yes. So, our list, I can tell you what I have on my list for next month. I know that I will have a trip request, or I anticipate a trip request. I wasn't quite ready for this meeting, so if I'm able to approve that, which looks like I will be able to, then we'll bring that next month. We have the student engagement survey that we realized we had we did a student engagement survey last year. We usually share it in August, and I think we had a policy / curriculum meeting in August. And so then just a couple weeks ago, I was like, wait a second, I feel like we missed that, and that's why. So I wanna circle back and make sure we honor that, so, and that'll be a great time in December. We'll be talking about a lot of data, so it'll just fit right in with the December spirit there of data. And then I have a request from Mr. Halverson, our Director of Student Support Services, to bring the counseling standards. So what I anticipate doing with counseling standards is bringing them to our December meeting as a brief discussion item, and then bringing them back for discussion and action in January. And I would have the counseling team and Mr. Halverson here at the January meeting, so that you could get any questions answered. That will give you the whole from December to January to review those, which is what we've done the last few times with standards, and seems to work if that works for you. So those are the 3 things I had on my list, which will probably make a good December meeting. Because with that trip request, I would like to have that in December. So I know we have a date on the calendar, but we were also, like, it would kind of depend on what the need was. And I do think that trip request would be best at December if possible.
Okay.
So,
All right, any questions or
anything else
to add?
that
From me?
No, looks good. Okay, so next meeting date is, I don't have my calendar in front of me.
December 11th.
Okay, thank you.
Always prepared.
I'm gonna try. We technically had it at 6 p.m., but there was a note that I had in
Oh.
other meetings that you guys might wanna look at
Oh.
the time.
Just if we wanna consider it earlier or I can't remember.
Yeah, let me just take a
I
look
have to
here.
look at my work calendar I might be able to be earlier. I can let you know.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's
So
Wednesday
6 p.m. so far,
at
right?
6, yeah, so.
Would anybody want it earlier? Do we want it earlier if possible?
That would be great. I
Okay.
know my, the teacher bringing the trip request does have an event at 7 that night.
Gotcha.
So if not, he's prepared to come at 6 and
Okay.
then scoot right to the event, but.
On Wednesdays, I know, but I
Yeah,
think
I
some of my
would
days I've
be able to
scheduled
get
so I
here
can
earlier if
leave
that's
early,
needed.
but I don't remember, and that's on a different schedule, so I'll double check, and if I can leave earlier, I'll confirm it with you guys. Or I'll let you know.
I'd be flexible too, earlier.
Yeah.
Same.
So we could do it, I think.
It's just me,
The only one.
It's hard to get here by 5:30, if I'm working till 5, so. Let me just no, I don't have it in this schedule, so I'll have to check in my other schedule.
No worries.
Too many schedules.
We'll leave it at 6 and if we can
Yeah.
change it then.
I'll keep you posted, I'll let you know, I was supposed to let you know that sooner than later, so. All right, and then we're ready to adjourn, I have a motion to adjourn,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sounds good, motion passed, for sure.